something's coming.
Yes, something big is coming in the sense that nobody even knew this movie was even a thing when the year began. But if you went to go see 13 Hours that weekend, in the second weekend of 2016, then you got this trailer. Because, hey, Cloverfield did the same kind of marketing and it worked out in its favor. So could this movie. Welcome to Time About the Movies, by the way. Today we are taking a look at the 6 films of March 11, 2016. And we're starting off with the biggest of the new releases, which is, of course, 10 Cloverfield Lane. So, after getting in a car accident, you have Mary Elizabeth Winstead as a woman who's sheltered by 2 men, one of them played by John Goodman, who claim the outside world is affected by a widespread chemical attack. And it's important to get something straight right out of the get-go here. This is not a sequel to Cloverfield, at least not a straightforward sequel, but you could make the argument this takes place around the same time as the first movie did, but there's definitely parts where they do make it seem like this could take place around the same time the events of the first one were taking place, but even though this isn't a straightforward sequel, this is still a really good movie. Even if you take the Cloverfield aspect out of the movie, you would still have a really good, tense, and exciting suspense thriller that... Because really, that's what it is, man. A tense suspense thriller with those monsters at the last 10 minutes. Which I'll delve into that just a little bit here, but... talk about the positives first. The idea of doing a bottle thriller where it's mostly taking place in one area is always going to be an interesting film approach. And here, they do a pretty good job of making that aspect work. Maybe not to the same levels as something like Ex Machina did the year before, but pretty close overall. All the acting is really good here. Mary Elizabeth Winstead and John Gallagher Jr. play these characters very well here. They work off each other very well with good chemistry, nailing down the right emotional output to give these scenes that they're in. But really, the best aspect about this movie is John Goodman in this, who's playing the guy who's taken them in. He's always been a great actor. No matter what movie he's in, he's just that great of an actor. And it's amazing that nobody ever gives him the proper respects he deserves as an actor, but he gets a chance to shine in a leading role here, showing off his amazing range here. He's legitimately terrifying in this. He's basically a doomsday prepper, and in this movie, his range of emotions and his ability to just snap just like that is all over this movie. He can be downright terrifying in this movie. It's a performance where I honestly would have thought that if he should have gotten an Oscar nomination for this. That's how good of a performance this is. He's legitimately terrifying and good and awesome in this movie, man. But of course, they didn't do that because, well, for one thing, it came out in March, and you know the Academy Awards around this time. If it's not coming out in September, October, November, December, then they're not going to nominate it. Pretty much that. But another thing I really dug about the movie was the way it's filmed. The cinematography is really good. Like, I appreciate how the film feels like a film that Alfred Hitchcock would have made if he was still alive, especially the opening, which is like something straight out of a Hitchcock movie with a little bit of a Saul Bass style of opening to it. And even the music by Bear McCreary is done very well, like the Hitchcockian style music of Bernard Herrmann, who of course did the classic Hitchcock music for The Birds and Psycho. If there's one complaint I have about the movie, it is actually the final 10 minutes, which feels like they're tacked on. Like, you could have ended the movie with Winstead just getting out of the bunker and then cutting to her riding off into the intersection of Baton Rouge and Houston, and it would have been fine. But that final scene where she's fighting the creature really doesn't work because, honestly, the creature she's fighting looks like the Chitauri from the Avengers. At least the spaceship does. And the creatures themselves look like something straight out of Ben 10, like a live-action Ben 10 movie that Cartoon Network would have done back in the day. Like, the tension's there, but then you show the creature designs that, man, they needed to be changed so badly because they could have come out more menacing here. At least the monster in the original Cloverfield movie was terrifying, but this monster just feels like it was tacked on at the very end of the movie. With that said, though, the very last scene where she's in the car and she hears it on the radio about the survivors leading to some potentially good things to come out of this, like what they could do with this concept here. Let's take a micro-budgeted movie with interesting stories and have it take place across the Cloverfield storyline, kind of like a Cloverfield anthology film series, like what they were going to do with Halloween back in the day in the 1980s when, you know, Halloween 3 Season of the Witch was supposed to be the start of an anthology of not just Michael Myers being the killer, but all these different things that are happening on Halloween. But, of course, that film didn't do well financially, so they went back to bringing Michael Myers as the villain. I feel like there's definitely a lot of potential with what they could do here with the concept of having an action film taking place within the events of the attack, or be creative with it. How about a romantic comedy set within the attack? You know, just to give you kind of an idea of the potential that they can do with this. Do these minuscule budget movies while having them sort of take place within the Cloverfield storyline. I mean, just do it better than they try to do it here. I mean, the next one, the Cloverfield Paradox, which they tried to do the same kind of marketing campaign with here, didn't quite work in general because it took place in space, and there really was nothing about it that made it legitimately good or interesting. Which is funny because Paramount would later release a movie that same year, Overlord, which felt like a Cloverfield movie set in World War II. It's just like, why did you just do that as a Cloverfield sequel? Like, I feel like there's so much potential that could have been done with this, but nobody has ever really had a chance to really give it that opportunity to do so. But despite those last 10 minutes being underwhelming, this is still a really damn good movie. A great suspenseful thriller with a lot of good tension, great performances, great music, great cinematography, and all from Dan Trachtenberg, who we saw recently can make something cool out of the long-standing franchise, especially with the Predator movies. Like, he has saved the Predator franchise with Prey and Predator Badlands after what happened with Shane Black's The Predator, which we'll get to in 2018. But this movie, though, it's not quite as good as Cloverfield was, but it still works as an overall enjoyable spiritual sequel to one of the big game-changing movies of the last decade. This is definitely one you want to check out if you haven't seen it already. Seek out 10 Cloverfield Lane, because it is definitely worth a watch. So, needless to say, the rest of the weekend is not very good. I mean, 10 Cloverfield Lane was the movie to see this weekend, and, you know, it's honestly kind of a precursor to the rest of the month in general, because March overall starts off strong, but then you get a lot of really lackluster movies, case in point with the films we have coming up here. Let's start with the biggest of the new releases, and that is The Perfect Match.
Important in life than going after what you love.
A movie that looks so cheap and so lazy that this really does feel like it should have been a film that went straight to DVD, like you'd find it in your Walmart's new release section, before you eventually find it in the Dollar Tree for like $1.25 down the road. But yeah, sadly, this is one of those movies that feels like that, but because Lionsgate is such a low-budget independent film company at this time, they'll put out anything, and yeah, they really shouldn't with this one. Terrence J stars as Charlie, a playboy who's convinced that relationships are dead, even though his sister, a therapist, tries to tell him otherwise. His best friends bet him that if he sticks to one woman for 1 month, he's bound to fall in love. Charlie takes the bet because he believes that he's immune to love, until he meets the beautiful, mysterious Eva, played by Cassie. Charlie coaxes Eva into a casual affair, but soon finds out that she has turned the tables on him after realizing he wants a bit more from their relationship. So it's like a lesser version of Boomerang, pretty much. I mean, it's literally that type of a movie, except Boomerang was was much better, even though it wasn't one of Eddie Murphy's better movies. It at least was trying to be more raunchier and more risque, and actually have a lot more funny material with it. This is a piece of garbage here. This is a film that wastes a lot of good talent on here. Donald Faison also has a role in here. Dasha Polanco from Orange is the New Black, Lauren London, Joe Pantoliano, Paula Patton, Robin Givens, Brandy. I mean, this is... Robin Givens was in Boomerang, if I'm not mistaken, too. So, I mean, she would think she would know that, wow, this is a watered-down version of something I did 20 years ago. I mean, it's literally a watered-down version of Boomerang, and not in a good way. It's a boring movie. It falls into the same cliches we've seen done to that before in rom-coms. You know, these two are going to break up in the third act, but they're going to get together again because that's how this is supposed to go. It's pathetic, man. It's a lazy film. It's not creative at all. It's a boring movie. There's nothing about this relationship that's strong overall. It's a terrible movie, man. It's a really, really terrible film. What more do you expect, man? But, anyway, let's see if we can turn the tide around with our next movie, The Young Messiah.
The Young Messiah, rated PG-13.
Yes, fun for the whole family, as long as your youngest is 13 years old. I mean, why even bother saying it's fun for the family if it's PG-13? But, and again, PG-13 is kind of like the new G. It's almost about the new PG, as PG is the new G, because nobody uses the G rating anymore. But I was shocked to find out this was actually based on a novel by Anne Rice. That Anne Rice, the Anne Rice of Interview with a Vampire. Yes, this is based off one of her novels, and it revolves around a fictional interpretation of a 7-year-old Jesus who tries to discover the truth about his life when he returns to Nazareth from Egypt. So, yeah, it's another one of these Christian-based movies here, but supposedly not one of the better ones. This thing did not prove to be a big hit at the box office, and I guess people saw the fact that this was being released by Focus Features and not, the same company that put out Fireproof and Courageous, and it was just kind of like, well, I'm not going to go see this because it's a major studio putting this out here, and sure enough, lo and behold, yeah, nobody went to go see it. I think also not helping is the fact that Focus Features changed the name of it to The Young Messiah instead of just calling it Christ the Lord, which is the name of the book in general. But according to a press release by the director of this, the new title better conveys how our film seeks to present a realistic portrayal of Jesus as a child born grounded in faith and consistent with the adult Jesus revealed in the Bible. So by changing it to The Young Messiah, a blander title than Christ the Lord, that's how you're trying to distance yourself? Well, let me tell you, pal, you didn't do very much of a good job with it. I don't know, man. I mean, I haven't seen this, so I can't really say if it's any good or not, but knowing what I've seen from the reviews from it and from what I've seen from it, it does not look like anything that amazing. The only thing that I think would make me want to see this is the fact that it does have a very underrated actor in here, Christian McKay, who did a really good Orson Welles performance in Me and Orson Welles a couple years back, but yeah, other than that, though, there's no real reason for me to see this movie. It's kind of like with Risen. It's just kind of like, I mean, or some of these other faith-based movies we're talking about here. I don't watch these type of movies all that much, nor do I really have a need to watch them. So yeah, I'm not going to really criticize them or give them a fair shot. I mean, unless there's one I really want to check out, which is not really something that very much happens, I'm not going to really say too much about this one here. So maybe it's good, maybe I'm just not thinking it, or maybe it's not that great at all. So bottom line, I don't really care. So let's go ahead and move on to our next movie, which is Sacha Baron Cohen and Mark Strong starring in the action comedy The Brothers Grimsby.
I don't think that's a myth.
The Brothers Grimsby.
The world is in very safe hands.
Rated R. Start.
Yay! More shitty comedies! What am I doing with my hands? I don't know. There's a lot of bad comedies in 2016, and we're just scratching the surface here, people. And this one, yeah, this one is pretty bad. I mean, good lord, this one was rough to sit through. Sacha Baron Cohen stars as a football hooligan who reunites with his long-lost brother, played by Mark Strong, who's an MI6 agent, and must work together to stop a global plot to destroy the world. It also has a cast that includes Rebel Wilson, Isla Fisher, Annabelle Walls, Gabrielle Sidibe, Penelope Cruz, Ian McShane. It doesn't sound like a bad idea, and it really felt like a film that probably should have worked, but no. It's the type of movie, like, if you got sick and tired of Sacha Baron Cohen's act after Borat and Bruno and The Dictator, you're gonna hate this movie. And yeah, this thing got old really, really fast, man. I mean, these two guys, Mark Strong and Sacha Baron Cohen, are good enough to handle a movie like this, but man, this movie is just failing on so many levels. You know how many, you know what's in a lot of these bad comedies in 2016? Stupid, gross-out jokes and nothing funny to work with here. There's literally a point in this where they get stuck inside of an elephant's... I can't remember what it was. It was like an elephant's vagina or something like that. And then you have this elephant with a big penis, and they gotta show it because that's what makes it funny. That's what makes this whole thing funny. It's just like, no, it's not. Having an elephant penis while you have these two actors trying to do their job here is not funny. There's nothing hilarious about this movie. Sacha Baron Cohen's character is so obnoxious in this. Mark Strong is supposed to be this sleuth secret agent who's supposed to be smarter than he is, but the fact that he can't tell his brother, hey, dude, you're making this much more difficult than it has to be. Get the fuck out of here. Because, oh no, he's my brother. I can't do that to him. It's just like, dude, like, are you trying to, is the fact that you keep egging him on, it's like you want to get killed at this point. That's how much this movie does not care about common sense whatsoever. Nothing about this movie makes any sense whatsoever. The comedy is terrible. These actors that are much better than this are terribly playing terrible characters. The action's not even that great. The comedy is terrible. The lame attempts at gross out humor is awful. Nothing about this movie is redeemable whatsoever. It is that awful of a film. Just, what a disaster, man. What a disaster of a movie this was. And, yeah. I don't think I need to say much more about this one. The Brothers Grimsby, one of the worst movies of the year, so... let's see if we can turn the tide again with this one here. Let's take a look at our next movie, which is Eye in the Sky.
Deal with the aftermath. If only it were that simple.
Eye in the Sky.
And the answer, of course, is simply yes, because this movie is actually pretty awesome. And a nice return to form for Gavin Hood, who has not made a lot of good movies in the last couple of years, but then again, he did Ender's Game. That wasn't too bad. But, so this is Eye in the Sky, and it's about the ethical challenges of drone warfare. Of course, drones are a thing that we can use against our enemies, and this movie definitely makes the fear of a drone is literally above me right now all the more terrifying, especially what it's capable of doing here. And this is actually a really good film with a very strong cast. Helen Mirren, Aaron Paul, Alan Rickman, and actually one of his last movies he did. This was actually the last live-action film he did after he died, because it came out after he died, and then his last film overall will still come in a couple months from now with Alice Through the Looking Glass. But Barkhead Abdi from Captain Phillips is also pretty good in here too. It's a really good movie. That does make these drones all the more terrifying when you see what they're able to do in this movie here. It's a unique spin on a typical political thriller set in wartime, modern wartime. It's a movie that doesn't really get a whole lot of attention overall. It kind of came and went at the box office, and you never hear a lot of people really talk about it anymore afterwards, but it's definitely a really good movie. A very underrated gem of a film, especially... I'd honestly say this is probably the best thing that Gavin Hood has ever directed overall, because I really liked a lot of his works, but I did really like Ender's Game that came out before this. But this definitely is his overall best film overall, and one I highly recommend checking out if you haven't seen it. So definitely check it out, Eye in the Sky. So, with all that said, let's go ahead and take a look at our last film, Sally Field in Hello, My Name is Doris.
There's some duck sauce in your refrigerator from the 1970s. It keeps.
Hello, my name is Doris. Rated R.
Not starring Simon Helberg from The Big Bang Theory. That was my mistake. I thought he was in this movie, but no. It's another actor from a comedy series around this time, Max Greenfield from New Girl. But in this movie, Sally Field plays a woman in her 60s who tries to act on her attraction to a younger co-worker. You also see Tyne Daly in here, Beth Bears, which is funny because Max Greenfield and Beth Bears would later appear together on The Neighborhood on CBS. Wendy McClendon-Covey, then on The Goldbergs, Stephen Root, Elizabeth Reeser, and Natasha Lyonne. They were all in this movie. Directed by Michael Showalter, kind of a different movie for him at this point, because, this was kind of his big turnaround as a director, because he'd be directing more films like this, and actually would direct another movie with Sally Field, and it's spoiler alert later on down the road. That does feature a Big Bang Theory alumni, that's with Jim Parsons. But, as far as this movie goes, man, it's the type of movie where it's just one of those films where it's just like, it's just nothing but hearing Sally Field and Tyne Daly bickering about the fact that they're older women and all the things that apparently older women do, like have like old food from the 70s and all that. I mean, that's literally something that you hear in the trailer and you're just kind of like, my grandmother never did anything like that. I mean, yeah, she might have had some old stuff in there, but not the way they're presenting it in this movie here. It's a really corny movie, man. It's not worthy of everybody involved in this. I mean, Sally Field's doing the best she can in this movie, but even then, it's not really enough to save the film in general. It's a movie that is just kind of boring. There's nothing about it that really makes it all that funny or amusing, and I guess the performances are okay in this, but it's about what you expect from a film like this in general. I mean, if you saw this director's previous film, Oh, What Fun, which was one of the worst movies of last year, it's kind of that mentality here. Not quite as bad as that, but that's the type of movie it is here. It's not a movie that's catering to everybody. It's only catering to a specific group of people, and even they would probably not want to sit through this garbage. I mean, it is kind of what it is, garbage. But I just wanted a better movie with people like Sally Field and Tyne Daly involved in this. Not like this. But I don't know. I'm just kind of padding out time here. But anyway, that is Hello, My Name is Doris. And thus we continue our downside into the month of March on the next episode, because our next episode will include the third installment of what was supposed to be a two-part conclusion to the Divergent saga, because the world was demanding that. But unfortunately, this movie failed miserably at the box office, and then they basically said, nobody wants to see the conclusion of this, and really, nobody wanted to see the beginning of this, to be quite honest with you. The Divergent series, Allegiant, and then we have another faith-based movie, Miracles from Heaven. But okay, we do have a couple of movies that actually are kind of decent. We have Melissa Rauch from The Big Bang Theory, starring in the raunchy comedy The Bronze. And we have Jeff Nichols, the director of Mud, is directing his latest film with Michael Shannon, Midnight Special. So, not a bad week overall. I mean, we'll get to some rough films at first, but then as the show goes on, we'll find some more good stuff there. But that's the stuff we'll take a look at when we meet back here tomorrow on the show. So, be on the lookout for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. So with all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.